Welcome everybody at the Mentalism Conversation community. My name is Pablo Mira, founder of Mentalism Center. Very happy to be in this opportunity with one fantastic brother of our community, Lance Sinclair. So for this conversation to be connected with him, first obviously he needs to enter. So let's wait for some people to arrive to this conversation, also obviously to Lance. So Lance is talking to me, so give me a moment. I will talk with him in my MacBook. So Aaron is online. Hello, Aaron. Hola. We are waiting for more people, and obviously Lance, because he's the one with the invitation. Lance is online, so for some reason I can't add Lance, so give me a moment. So meanwhile, you can watch me drinking water. Drink water, guys. It's very healthy. And meanwhile, let me share with you a mentalism idea. So let's take a business card. And if you know the Acidus Noah's Peak, the classic one by Miller Longman, right? You have a very nice touch idea that also my friend Luca Volpe used it, and it's a very good one, but it's an older one that I also used with a little bit of modification, and I just used a normal piece of paper that I found. Lance is almost ready, so yeah, I will invite him and then I will continue the idea. Let's see. Come on. Lance says, I am here on both phone and desktop, so let's see if one of those works. It says adding. Robert Watkins just like this conversation. Nothing to like right now, just myself. So let's see that if Lance gets online. I have my water ready, and obviously some Chilean wine. So it says the guest didn't reply, so Lance, please reply the invitation. Adding again. There you go. Hello, Lance. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, very nice. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah.
on the computer. There's a little bit of a delay. I was a
Oh,
little
okay.
concerned about that, but we're
Uh,
good. I would have wanted it to be on the computer though because this sounds way better.
yeah, yeah, it sounds cool. So, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for whoever's tuned in to listen either now or later. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure.
yeah. That's the idea. Sometimes because we are in different parts of the world, obviously, some people are sleeping, so they can watch tomorrow or wherever. So, very happy to have you here, my friend. For those who doesn't know your name or your career, your reputation, tell us a little bit about Lance Sinclair.
Well, that's my name. I've been doing this for 16 years, about 16 years. I started in magic at the age of 5, very seriously uh, into it. Um, Time went by, and then around the age of 11, I delved into the art of mentalism. And around 3 or 4 years ago, I started delving into hypnosis. I guess you could say I was in search for something real all along. And it all started actually, mentalism started with Darren Brown's Mind Control show. I don't know if you saw the special, his
Yeah, of
first TV
course.
special.
Fantastic.
Mind Control was amazing.
Yeah,
Um, and so when I saw that there was something out there I could do that was more real, that was more powerful, that couldn't be a trick. I started looking into it and all that. But I told you in the past, personally, there's a very mysterious and kind of
yeah,
scary story. I
yeah,
don't know,
yeah.
maybe we'll share it, who knows,
Yeah,
about
of
how
course,
I
I will love to. Yeah, yeah. Maybe a little bit so people doesn't get scared too much.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, the thing is this, right? If you do any magic, or if you mix magic and mentalism, or you are a magician looking to be serious into mentalism, you know from experience that it doesn't matter how amazing what you do is. At the end of the day, people will leave knowing that you did just a trick, that you fooled them, that you
Yeah,
were too quick with your hands, or you were hiding something, um, or you did something when they were not looking. And to me, that's like, it has no substance, it has no essence. I don't want to go to bed at night at the end of a gig knowing that what I did was just amazing in the moment, and then it was no more. I want to go to bed at night knowing that what I did, what connection I built with someone, remains equally as powerful when I'm no longer there, right? And so I guess that's what I was looking for, which meant that the more I grew and the more I learned, the more I also uh, strive to learn about myself, to learn about life and philosophy and people,
yeah,
the meaning of life. I think if you are in the business of dealing with people, which is what this is, show business. Without people, there is no show.
exactly.
Um, it's important for you to know what it's about. Why people think the way they think, how they think, what they need, what the things they don't even know themselves they need, right? And
Yeah,
then we can provide them with those. So yeah, more or less, that's what I'm about.
yeah, fantastic, man. So you just said something that relates to an idea that I have some days ago that alludes to the musician observation of the instrument. What is our instrument as a mentalist? What do you think about that? What is our instrument?
Our words, our voice, our gestures, the way we look at people, the way we touch people, the way we connect with them. I think if you look at Juan Tamariz, or Tamariz, if you want to be Spanish about it, he has a book called Five Points in Magic, the 5 points
Yeah,
in magic. He talks about your gaze. It's important. The way you speak, the way you don't speak, your
yeah,
silence, which I think if someone watching this doesn't utilize it, silence can be even more powerful than words could ever be. Your silence, the way you touch someone, the gestures you use, we were talking about this yesterday, to be precise. You know, all these things add up. You know,
Yeah,
this is not. There's not a. The way I look at it is, if you want to be a great performer, it doesn't matter uh, if it's in magic or in mentalism. You can't be lazy. You can't be lazy. You have to be a little bit of everything, right? That's why it's so difficult. The magician, the enchanter is a poet. He's a
yeah,
writer. He's a choreographer. He's an actor. He's a musician, because you also have to pick the music for your show, right?
yeah,
You are so many things, and you have to wear so many hats, and you have to keep that same mentality when you're building something, when you're performing for people. You have to be hyper aware of how every little thing you're doing is affecting them, both verbally and non-verbally. And I think that's really what it is. Your instrument is your whole body, really.
yeah, yeah. And one of the points that really was hard for me to understand was the fit. You know that one of the points in Juan Tamari's book was the fit. And
Yes.
when I studied that book at the beginning, said, why the fit? Okay, the hands, the gaze, the voice, of course, but the fit. And obviously, I don't want to spoil everything, so each person has their own study, but fits are very important because they affect in an unconscious level. They are not that
Hmm.
direct, like the gaze, like the voice. And at the end, it's all a congruent package of non-verbal, right? If you are authentic, if you are honest, and that's very interesting concept to apply in our performance, because some people believes that magic or mentalism is the art of deception, right? But I think that deception is the least concept that I want to apply in my work. Why? I want to be honest. I don't want to deceive anyone. I don't want to create a lie. I want to offer my truth that
Yes.
is as real as anyone else. And in the
Absolutely.
stage and in the connection, I am reading minds. I am seeing things on the future. I am using my energy. That's real. And it's as real as the reality from the audience perspective. So it's not a question if I am doing with the quote unquote real powers. It doesn't matter because we are entertainers, we are connecting with them. And at the end, it's the process that people are perceiving and feeling. That's what is important. It doesn't matter if I use a propulse technique, if I use a billet, if I use a stitch, doesn't matter. All what is matter is their experience. And this also relates to a video that you shared yesterday, right? And I also share it in the Mentalism conversation community because for me it's a real example about the non-importance of methods. Because right in your routine, you read the mind of the lady. Doesn't matter how you did it. But for me,
Not at all.
what really matters is why you did it and how in the minds of the audience you did it.
That's correct.
Yeah, and let me
Absolutely.
tell you that it was beautiful.
Thank you,
Congratulations
man.
again.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm the kind of person. Uh, I have to touch on so many things because you said so much there. You said congruency. You
Yeah,
said your truth, our
yeah,
individual truth. I want
yeah,
to talk about those. And now you mentioned, uh, what did you just say? You said the 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 performance being beautiful. I'm the
yeah,
kind of person that I've learned in my self discovery that I'm too big a perfectionist. I want things to be bang on, you know, the best they can be. And in some ways, that could be a really great thing to be. But it can be harmful. Uh,
yeah,
you know, I find that when, you know, and I'm getting really personal now, when you become too critical of yourself, you end up holding back your true potential,
yeah,
um, because you feel unworthy, you feel incapable. And when you are so close minded like that, trying to make everything perfect before you share it with someone, in some ways you can stop yourself from ever doing anything because you think it's never good enough. And I'm like that.
yeah,
I think it's never good enough. And I think you have to have a balance, right?
yeah,
You have to uh, know what you're doing and do your best to do it well. But to not be afraid to take risks and learn along the way. We're dealing with people. Things can go wrong, and they will go wrong, right? And we have to experience to learn and to become better. So my tip for anyone would be, first and foremost, just study and do. Your performance is your practice. A singer, like Luke Germain says many times in his performances, a singer might be backstage doing his runs, right? An actor might be rehearsing their lines. But a mentalist cannot warm up with one other mind. There's just no way, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get out there and you have to do. Now, bearing that in mind, I find that when I have let go, my intuition comes into play. And then all the things that I have studied. Give me 1 second. Let me plug in my phone before it dies.
Yeah, no problem. So we are live, as you can see.
This is not rehearsed.
Yeah, and as you said, this is the beautiful thing about being human, the imperfections.
Absolutely. So I was saying, my intuition can come in, and all the things that I've studied, all the things that I have thought of, they can resurface on their own in a natural way as the interaction unravels. And it's a really beautiful thing, because when I look at that video that you're referring to, you saw the uncut version. I sent you the uncut version. So you saw all the multiple reveals along the way to get to the name. When I look at that, it's weird for me because I'm never satisfied. But I was satisfied with that one. I know that there's so many things I could have done differently, but it's all about the participant. It's all about what they feel. And if she was satisfied, then I am too, right? Now,
Exactly.
If we rewind a little bit, you mentioned congruency, again on the subject of the 5 points in magic, or 6 points, or however many points there are.
Infinite points of magic.
I think there are more than 5. I think there are definitely
Yeah.
Congruency is so
37, I think.
What's that?
37, I believe.
Yes.
Or 68, one of those.
One of those, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, congruency is important because people, when you're incongruent, they sense dishonesty.
Yeah.
They sense that you're not being true. They sense that you are hiding something. So oftentimes, the problem, so a lot of magicians will say, oh, well, I don't know why it is that they think it's fake. I'll tell you why. It's because you're not congruent. It is possible for you to present it as just a trick, and they can love you. They can love Penn and Teller, right?
Yeah.
Because there's that honesty, there's that transparency.
Yeah.
You can, at the same time, you can't really with magic, but you can do that with mentalism, like Darren Brown, who says this is psychological, yada, 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 which, of course, we know he has some, false ends for people to hold on to that really lead to no method. But you can also, when performing mentalism as something real and truly powerful, you need to be congruent, because it's when you're not congruent, it's when you present the thing saying that it's real, but acting like it's not, that they feel this guy's hiding something. So it's really important. This reminds me of 13 Steps to Mentalism. We like to read 13 steps from step 1 to 13. I always say read 13 first.
Yeah.
Because that one's about acting. One's about acting. And so there's an interview there with an actor who played a mind reader. And it's really important to understand that we have to believe our own performance. If you don't believe that what you're doing is real, whether or not you're verbalizing that, then who can? Morgan Freeman said, first I believe my role, and then the audience can believe it. Right? And that means everything. That is absolutely everything. You realize that, and this Pandora's box just opens up for you, because then you can truly make powerful connections, and it reflects in your performance. It reflects in the way people talk about you after they interact with you. You also mentioned our individual truth. Another book I recommend is Happy by Darren Brown. It's not a book of tricks. It's not a book of routines.
Happy tricks.
This is a book on philosophy. This is a book on figuring yourself out, okay? And understanding the way us humans think, and finding happiness, which is a word we often misunderstand. You know, in my self-discovery, which still is ongoing, I have realized that the whole purpose, the whole meaning of life is that it has no meaning. Is that we have to give it our own meaning. Is that we have to find something meaningful, I should say meaningless, and give meaning, make it meaningful, and then share that with others. Our truth, right? And so, what is my truth? What is your truth? What is everybody's truth? You watching, whoever you are, what is your truth? These are important questions to ask. What do you need people to know? Because I hope that we see ourselves as artists. I hope so. And if we see ourselves as artists, then we must acknowledge it as true that we should be expressing something through the art, be it music, be it painting, be it singing, anything at all, whatever it is that you're doing, you should be sharing something. That's why people write. That's why this exists. That's why novels exist, because someone has something to share with the world, and so they put it in this medium. And so my truth is, I aim to, through the performance of mentalism, let people find the inspiration and the motivation they need to find the meaning in their life, and to approach that head on, to not be afraid, to not let their fears and setbacks weigh them down and hold them back from living the life that they want to live, and to listen to their intuition. I remember we had a conversation a long time ago about a simple card effect. A simple effect. It was kind of like any card at any number, but different. It was someone thinks of a card, and then they shuffle the cards, and they find their own cards. You never touch the card. And they find it while listening to their own intuition. And I don't know if you remember, but you had said that you wanted to use that, and I said, go right ahead. When I finished the performance, before they turn the card over, I say, if that is indeed your card, after they've been dealing and waiting for that sensation in them that tells them to stop, that something is here. If that indeed is their card, I want them to make a promise to themselves and to everyone watching that from this moment on, whenever you're faced with a decision, you will always and forever, to your last breath, follow your intuition. Because so often, we listen to people's voices around us so much, and they cloud our minds so much that our own inner voice is dimmed in volume so low that we can no longer hear it. And it's important to regain that control. It's important to live the life that we want to live. And the reason why that's my truth is because I've realized very early on that the saddest thing, the most depressing thing that a person can experience in life is at the end of their life, when they're laying in their deathbed and they know they're sick or they have terminal cancer, they say to themselves, I wish I would have. I wish I could have.
Yeah.
You always can. But will you, is the question. And so to eradicate, to completely eliminate that regret that renders life a waste, right? If you don't do what your heart tells you, if you don't do what you love, what gives you purpose, what gives you meaning, what gives meaning to your life, then honestly, I don't know what to say, because I could say some really harsh words right now about your life being a waste. But, Darren Brown clearly depicted this in a very beautiful way in his show Miracle. You are a miracle. Simple
Yeah.
as that. We seek for miracles outside. We seek for wonders, but we are the wonder.
Yeah.
The same elements that comprise the universe and all of space, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, they are inside of your eyes. They are inside of your every cell. And so when you look at the stars, you shouldn't feel small. You should feel big, immense. Because in the same way you are in the universe is in you, right? And so you need to live with a purpose, and we are a miracle, and we can't waste that. The fact that we are alive, that I'm speaking to you and you're speaking with me and you are watching, there's no words to express that. The probability of your specific DNA combination becoming you, it's incredible. And we have to acknowledge that first. We have to know ourselves first, right? We have to find ourselves first before performing, I believe. Before performing for people, before giving them something. I think mentalism is not an art to be wasted. People's time is not something to be wasted. Our own time is not something to be wasted. There's this conversation I had with a man who lost a really, really important friend to terminal cancer, actually. He told me he would have given anything in the world. He was like his friend and his mentor. He would have given anything in the world to get 5 more minutes with that man. You want to know the value of 5 minutes? Ask someone who just lost their parent. Ask someone who just lost their son. Ask someone who lost their partner at war in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Those 5 minutes that we're there wasting doing the ambitious card, they could be doing something else more productive and more useful. And so can we, right? And so I think that my philosophy for the whole thing is, how do we want to invest our time? People say time is money. I say time is not money. Time is more than money.
Exactly.
Time is more than gold. Time is the only currency. Because when you do some labor, when you do a show, people are not really paying you for what you did. They're paying you for your time. They're paying you for the time you were there performing, the time that you were preparing for it, and the time that you spent learning this craft.
Yeah.
It's your time that what you're paid for, And if you give someone $20, you will get those $20 back. If you give them 5 minutes, you never will. And I think it's so important to have that in our mind. And it's a very deep and powerful concept. I think we should be talking more about. We are way too focused on this. This is bullshit. This is not important. The methods are not important. What matters is how we make people feel, how we impact their lives, and what we make of our own. And I think that all that is a matter of finding ourselves and delving head on to the philosophy of this whole beautiful art form that we are a part of.
Beautiful, yeah. And as you said, my friend, is obviously a personal path. Maybe some persons are not in mentalism to create an artistic expression. They just want to have a personal human expression, to hang out with friends, to be a social performer, and that's fine. But but the first step, if you want to go into the artistic world, into the self-knowledge, self-development is really look yourself. Because as you said, we are miracles. We are moments that can interact with other persons and create really memorable moments. Just with simple tools, just with the human vulnerability. You know, we need to be vulnerable. At the beginning of your conversation, you said, well, I will be a little personal. And that's beautiful because we need to be a little personal in everything that we are. Because everyone can do the same act, everyone can do the same prediction, everyone can they anything. But why I am the one who is connected in that precise moment with that precise person or with that precise audience, right? What is the difference between a robot performing my act instead myself?
Wow, great
Yeah,
question. Yeah.
yeah, because a robot even can do it better, can do a better
They
abilities,
will
can do
never
a
forget the script.
exactly, yeah, because it's completely memorized. But that's the beautiful part, because we can connect as an human being, right? Because I can have some mistakes, and I'm very grateful always with my education, particularly with my parents, because they always support me even when I fail. I was a complete failure in various different things in life, but they always support me, and that's critical because, as you said, some people have fear in live their complete life, and I think that the most important aspect in that is fear. And with a simple metaphor, with a simple effect with mentalism, we can touch that deep, subtle aspect of don't have fears. The worst thing that we have is failure. So what? Failure is not as important as society tends to believe and
Mhm.
and force us to believe. It's not that
Yeah.
important. And if we think about it, when we are babies, we learn the most important lessons in our lives with failures. We start to talk, and we start to talk like babies, right? We start to walk, and we start to walk like babies, right? There's a fantastic musician, Victor Wooden, and he says that music is a language, and language is learned not with a full classroom of babies, right? A baby learns with adults. So it's the same thing for musicians. If the young musician wants to learn the language of music, he needs to learn with proper musicians, with adult musicians. And I believe that
Exactly.
in mentalism, we need to do the same. Anyone who is watching this and feels that he's a novice, a beginner, and he wants to learn, be bold and contact mentors, contact guys that you admire, because if you get any type of help, you will learn. You will get support, you will get love if you contact any type of site, any type of person that you feel that has value. Do it, because you will learn, and you will start to break that paradigm of failure, of fears, and you will realize that that paradigm also you can apply it in performance.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in a personal manner, I love jazz as a music style and perspective.
My favorite genre. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, in jazz, we have improvisation as one of the main tools. And
Yeah.
improvisation, it doesn't matter how fast are your fingers, how fantastic you have grades in the academic school. If you are not performing a true improvisational, authentic moment of music, people will not care. If you start to just doing scales, people will get bored. But if you apply rhythm, if you apply context, if you apply tone, that is
The
completely
points,
applicable to mentalism.
the 5 points in music.
Exactly. And the 5 points in mentalism as well. Because, for example, if in Q&A, it's a very, very peculiar routine because you need to improvise. Because
Yes.
knowing which is the question is the less important thing. I have done Q&A in an open manner. People just write questions and I read them.
Yeah.
Who is Lance? Lance, your question is, right? And I replied, and people is happy, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because the expectation and the promise of the act was, I will see the future, I will use my intuition, and the most beautiful thing is I am doing it, right? I'm doing it for real, and I don't need to hide anything. Now, I also love when I can place an envelope and whatever, a folded billet, whatever. Depends on the show, of course, but it is not needed. And if I am expressing myself in a true way, and I really want to create something beautiful for them, and they receive it, my job is done, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think again, you mentioned something important, and that's everyone is different, right?
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you feel like, oh, you'll never perform that kind of stuff, uh,
We have some problems. See the frozen lens? Oh, he's out. The flowing conversation was fantastic. So let me put my hat for a moment. We are waiting, Lance, with my sunglasses, of course, and my hat. Let's see another. I don't know. What is this? This is like a party one. Touch the lens. I don't know what to do. Okay. So let's wait for Lance. I don't know what happens. I will check my MacBook. Just a moment, please. In the meantime, I invite you to Mentalism Center, our site, our community, in which you can get constant content of mentalism with all our love for the craft and the art of mentalism. And Lance had a fantastic point that each one of us is different, right? And it's very important to be aware of that because, as we said, not everyone has the artistic call, the need of express in an artful manner. But it's very important to know yourself. What do you want to achieve in mentalism? Why are you doing? We focus too much in the how, but first focus in the why. So I am asking Lance what it happens, but as I told you, in the meantime, I am very thankful for Lance, for his time, for the conversation, because this is just casual conversation. I don't have any script planned, any type of question open from the community. If you want to add questions, you are open, but in all honesty, I don't. Phone overheated. Wow, sorry. Can you send the invite through the desktop? I don't think I can, Lance. I think that it can only be done via mobile phone or... Let me check. Give me a moment. So something very strange will happen now because I will see right now in here. I'm watching right now. It's very weird. What? Something very strange will happen now because I will see right now. Yeah, so I don't think that I can invite you, my friend. Let me see.
I'm watching right now. It's very weird. What? Yeah, so I don't think that.
Lance says I'm here, but I can't add you, my friend. For some reason, the option is not open for you. Maybe you can send me an invitation, or not an invitation, like a request to be part of the conversation. Ah, there you go. Adding. Mentalist extraordinaire. There you go.
So sorry about that.
No problem. I was waiting you with my sunglasses, so I will take them off.
You look like Robert De Niro.
Yeah, and Bob Cassidy, in the black cinema, black box.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it.
So my phone overheated. I think probably shouldn't have plugged it in because this is really battery consuming here. But
yeah.
Back on track, what I was saying is you mentioned something really important, and that's that everyone has their own truth. And so someone watching this and hearing our conversation might say, wow, they sound so passionate about this and about really having an impact and a purpose in performance. But I will never do that. I don't feel that resonates with me.
Yeah.
My answer to you is, that's okay. Number one. Number two, you might not always feel that way. Someday you might feel like you aren't doing it for the right reasons, which is why I changed into this mindset. Someday you might feel like you're not really getting anything out of it. That the praise and the attention and the applause and the reactions just aren't enough.
Yeah.
Someday you might feel that, as did I. And I think that wherever you are now, in magic, in mentalism, in music, in anything, it's important to find yourself, to know yourself, to figure yourself out. It's okay to take a break from everything to focus on you, because like I said again, even if you disagree with our take on mentalism performance, you cannot disagree with what we said about life being precious, about life being a gift and a miracle and something that you can't waste. So having said that, I think if you haven't gone on a search for yourself, if you haven't looked into philosophy, Stoic philosophy specifically, it's incredible. Yeah. Then I think you will be really happy when you do. And when you do, you might change your thought process, and you might realize that it's worth investing time and money to becoming a better, more impactful, more powerful performer who has a purpose to his performance other than entertain. Because yes, we are entertainers, and that's something that we should focus on. And yes, there is a time and place for quick, hard-hitting material, and there's a time and place for more elongated, drawn-out, dramatic, deep, personal performance. It's our job to know when which is best. and it's our job to be able to entertain in both, right?
Exactly.
So I think the the most important tip from me is never stop learning.
Yeah,
I'm a student and I will forever be a student. The
exactly.
day I think I'm not a student, I will quit because that will be the day I'm a hypocrite and a liar to myself.
Yeah,
And I think that the best thing I could say is we have to constantly learn from others. We have to look at books, not only magic books, not only mentalism books, not obviously, not all books on secrets. The real secrets are in books that talk about theory, in books like this one, Maximum Entertainment. If you don't have it, you
yeah.
need to get it. In books like this one, Scripting Magic.
Poetry.
There you go. Yeah.
Anything that you want.
Exactly. If you want to impact people in a profound way, if you want people to remember you and not the tricks that you did,
Yeah,
you need to invest time in cultivating your mind, in cultivating your art, investing time and money into being the best performer you can be. And
yeah,
I believe that everyone who is a part of the Mentalism Center community is in it for the right reasons, or so I hope. Everyone I know who has contributed material to the publications Pablo has put out, they are people that, in my mind, are in it for the right reasons. And I think at some levels, they all have um, a purpose, a reason, other than attention and um, praise or fame and fortune.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think that nowadays we are moving into a generation or an age, I guess you could say, where everything's about instant gratification. I want it now, 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 right?
yeah,
What's the quickest trick I can learn that can impress that girl or whatever, or give me many likes on Facebook?
yeah,
Uh, and the reason for that, of course, whoever is like that is not to blame. I don't think so. I think it's not their fault that society has made them addicted to the phone, right?
yeah,
And just looking down for the latest dopamine hit, you know. Um, but we are to blame if we know that it's wrong and it's affecting us and we don't do anything about it.
yeah.
That's equivalent to insanity. If you want change and you don't do anything different to get a different result, then I'm sorry, you are a little crazy, right? I think that to perform in a way that impacts people in a profound way, we can't have that instant gratification mentality. We have to think delayed gratification. This thing, it's going to take work. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take uh, time writing a script, fleshing out so only the important words stay in the performance. It's going to take time to be um, good, but it'll be worth it, right? So I think it's the same also in the search in the search for ourselves. It takes time, and I
Yeah,
think we never get there, right? I think
yeah,
that uh, it's only when you're like 95 years old that you realize I'm free. I can do whatever I want. I'm not scared of anybody. I've done everything and I've been everywhere,
yeah,
and nobody can tell me anything, which is why old people usually get away with cursing a lot and doing
yeah,
whatever they want.
yeah, yeah. You
Right?
know, it's very funny because I was reflecting about that yesterday, about hanging out with old people, because most of the time old people are very wise and they almost always are very minimalistic in life. They don't
Yes.
care about much things. And if you see that some of the trends of mentalist performers, a lot of them, after many times of the year, they just go with classic methods. They just throw the unnecessary pieces, and even some of them just become psychics because they understand that at
Yeah.
the end of the day they can create the goals that they need without any type of mentalism artifacts. That obviously
Yes.
they are beautiful. Yes, billets are beautiful. Techniques for picks, whatever, beautiful. Yes, beautiful. But what is your goal? What is my goal? Maybe it's different. And from that difference, maybe I can use other techniques. And I don't like when people try to generalize, for example, mentalism as an subcategory of magic, because it doesn't for me. But I
Yeah.
respect others. But in a way, it's different because at the core we have so many differences that it's like comparing painting with sculpting, right? They
Hmm.
both are working with plastic elements. They both work with color, with visuals, but they are different in the tools, in the
Very different.
approaches, and the same goes for mentalist and magic. A mentalist maybe will not have the prestidigitation, the sleight of hand for a magician, and it's fine. But in the other side, some magicians said, "Oh, mentalism is too easy." Yeah, it's too easy to do it wrong, because it's not that you are stupid or you are not intelligent. It's that you don't have the competence and the appreciation of the tools that we value. For example,
Yes.
I realized some time ago that in mentalism, most of the time you don't need misdirection. If you think about it, you don't need misdirection because you
Hmm.
are focusing the attention in the experience that you want. And if, for example, in a billet technique, you can let someone to see deeply into the billet there, for example. And in the
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
in which you are doing your pick, for example, say that you are doing an instant pick center,
T-Rex. Yeah.
for example, yeah, you can let people see directly. You know, obviously, you can focus the attention in somewhere else, in another thought, whatever.
Hmm.
But in mentalism, the misdirection is very different. It's like direction. It's like Tommy Wonder said, like focus, like other conceptualization of the misdirection, and a lot of other difference that I know that you know. For example, the suspension of disbelief, right? Classic
Hmm.
theater concept that in mentalism doesn't apply. Doesn't apply because you are creating something real, and that's the beautiful thing of mentalism, that you are creating a reality that obviously you are not trying to push into people. Rather,
Yeah.
you are creating the mystery and the facilitation of that ambience. When I perform in a way that I feel that I am doing it. And I let people decide if they want to believe or not. I don't care. And it is not
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
relevant. It is not really relevant to the experience, because if you believe or not, doesn't matter, because you will be entertained, you will be mystified. That's my job. If you want to believe,
Exactly.
fine. Right?
It doesn't matter, and it's funny because I was just thinking about that, and you brought it up. So I think there's something there.
Of course, man. Of course. It's
you
part.
know, Ken Nepper, he has a beautiful uh, non-disclaimer, you could say. He
Yeah.
says, "What I do isn't real. What I do isn't false. What I do is symbolic."
Yeah.
Something along those lines, and that's so
Yeah.
beautiful, right? Because
Yeah.
that's how it should be. It's not. I realized a long time ago that disclaimers make no sense. They're a waste of time that you could
Yeah.
use more efficiently. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, if they believe, you can say that it's fake. They'll still believe. People
Yeah.
think Darren Brown is really psychic, even when he says he's not.
Yeah.
And if they don't believe and you say that it's real, they'll still remain a skeptic and come up with some solution in their mind to how you did it. So
Yeah.
why bother? We're
Exactly.
not there to convert anyone's beliefs. We're not there to make anyone worship us. But if they do, whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And a
So
beautiful example is what happens in your video yesterday, right? Because
yeah,
that reaction from the girl was really something that I said, wow, Lance could really open a church, like anyone, right? Of us.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I love how you direct the focus of that emotion that was very natural, very grateful from her,
Hmm.
and you offer an applause for her, right? And you receive the hug and beautiful. But the applause also indirectly communicates the idea that your performance was that a performance, right? And that applause relax the tension and let people understand, okay, this is done. Enjoy your emotion, but let them go away and also create the experience and the memory that you can remember for the rest of your life. And yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
And that without her, it would have been impossible,
Yeah,
right? Which again, it's so important, right? Without, which is true, right?
yeah,
Yes, I knew the name before I revealed it, but without her and her following my instructions and being receptive to my questions and my body language, I couldn't have revealed all the other pieces of information that I got ahead of time,
yeah, yeah,
right? So honestly, I'm grateful because of her, because the way she already came into it so willing to experience this, to share in this moment.
yeah,
It opened the door again, right, for both of us to let our intuition just take
yeah,
over, which was really beautiful.
yeah, yeah. I hope that you release the uncut complete video soon because there's a lot of different reflections and lessons in there. And yeah, if we touch a little bit about the method, you said that you knew the name before, right? And
Yes.
that's fantastic because the girl was focusing in two names and two persons. So
Yes.
that for me alludes to the idea that she doesn't care about the previous procedure because
Mm-hmm.
she was connected to the present moment and she was believing that you are picking the thoughts in that moment. So she had that male figure and the female figure, and your fantastic adjustment and directions about that allows her to focus in that female and you reveal the name. So it's a fantastic way to realize that methods can be really erased from performance
Yeah.
and people will really believe something that never happens. And for sure you have several other stories about that. I have various stories about that, about
Mm-hmm.
people that constantly are meeting me and said, oh, Pablo did something for me years ago and I start to create something completely miraculous. And I say, yeah, of course I did. And at the same time
I
I'm
know.
thinking,
I no
how can I
longer
do
do
this?
that one.
Yeah, yeah. But I think, how can I do really that? Uh, some time ago, a woman that works with me in doing different workshops told a story about myself several years ago, and she creates the most impressive mind-reading demonstration ever. That I asked several people in the audience start to stand up, and I start to reveal names, and one person come on the stage, and I start to reveal her thought dream. Yeah, yeah, of course. I said, of course, and I know what I performed because I remember, and I just did a routine with business cards. And I asked her to write the dream, and I used one of the routines from one of my ebooks, and they revealed the name. And it's a good routine because first of all, you ask the participant to deal the business cards, and she stops and she found her dream. So it's a beautiful metaphor there. And then I reveal it. So it's like any card, any number with a revelation, whatever. But at the end of the day, as you say, people will believe whatever they want. And people will transform their memory into whatever they want. And people want to have fantastic stories, right? They don't want to say,
Yeah.
oh, I met a guy who asked me to wrote something and he tear it up and he knew it. No, no. People want to be storytellers. And also it's our job to let them be storytellers. And how can we do that? Creating memories for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can create holy grails with our words, with our recapitulations, because in that moment of fragility, when the participant receives the mystery, receives the astonishment, the critical mind is so vulnerable. And we can take advantage of that to create recapitulations, to create false conditions, and people will remember that. Sounds crazy, but it's true.
Absolutely. And you know that only happens though. That only happens when you believe the billet is invisible.
Exactly.
When you believe that they never wrote anything down,
Yeah.
right? Because our belief dictates the words that we use,
Yeah.
right? And so if you noticed, I never you don't, right? I never referred to her writing anything down. We clearly said we never met before. And the process in the uncut video, which is not out, is I told her, close your eyes, go back down memory lane, and think of several different people that are important to you
Beautiful.
from long ago. And then I said, actually, you have someone in mind already, yes? And
Yeah.
then we went on from there, right? So that'll be a hint
Beautiful.
to some people.
Beautiful.
But
Yeah.
it's just non-existent. If you believe, it's non-existent.
Yeah.
In fact, something interesting happened. So the name that she was thinking of, I knew because she had written it down. I never saw the paper. I never touched the paper, but she had written it down, and it was in her pocket. Yeah. After everything was said and done, nobody mentioned the paper. Nothing. Nobody. She didn't say anything. Her boyfriend didn't say anything. But what I found myself in was kind of an interesting situation. I thought, I don't want them to talk about the paper afterwards and think, oh, maybe that has something to do with it. So what I did was, I can't believe this. Was that really off camera? Was that really the name you wrote down?
Yeah.
Can I see it? And then she brings it out, and I see, and I act shocked. And I say, that's incredible. You're so good. You were so good at concentrating on it, right? But now what I did was I took away all the tension on the paper. Now it's unimportant. It's insignificant. And so I had done something already for her boyfriend, where I revealed an image he was thinking of, and I used the piece of paper to draw the image he was thinking of. I let him take that home, but I took the name so that I could facilitate them forgetting that ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. And something similar something similar that I use with the Asios Nova Speak. Years ago, I started to use it because obviously it's a classic, and I asked someone to think in a name of someone relevant in their life, and they hold the billet like this, right, in the fist and with a dramatic pose, and I start to create different visualizations and moments of my reading, and I reveal the name. The participant opened their eyes, and I asked for applause, and she came back to the stage. But I realized that people keeps the billet, right, in the hands. So a very simple idea that relates also to your story. At the moment when you take the hand, just take it and pocket it. Don't say nothing. You come back to the stage. Thank you very much. Again, that non-existent physical object will start to vanish slowly. And then people will just, because people want to tell a simple story, right? One liner. And the story will be here in my mind. As simple as that. And a very interesting idea that I realized time ago that I always share with someone who is interested in mind reading is that you need to be interesting and fascinating and memorable, even if they know that you know the word. So, as in your example, you know the name, but you reveal so much more. So, if even people start to talk later about, well, maybe he knew the word, but she can't say, okay, he knew the word, but how he knew all the other things about the hair, about the relation, about the thing, the idea of health, and all the other things, right?
Yep.
That's the beautiful thing about my reading. You can do it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something really important, and that's that they should remember something simple that they can say in one sentence. And we should also, when we are building our repertoire, filter things so that they can be remembered in one line. The effect is a one-liner, because clarity is so important.
It's essential. Yeah.
Also, another thing you mentioned is that they forget the billet if you use one because they're telling stories. So what's interesting about memory, right, which again, you would only know this if you learn about the mind. What's interesting about memories are we never remember things the way they happened.
Yeah.
And we never remember things the same way twice. And the reason is when we recall something and we tell it to someone, we are reshaping the connections in our mind, in our neurons. We're
Yeah.
building a slightly different narrative. And then the next time we tell that story, it's slightly more different,
Yeah.
slightly more dramatized. And next time, slightly more. And it starts shifting and shifting until eventually the memory is completely different. It's like the telephone game. But it
Yeah.
happens with every single memory because we want to believe that our life is fascinating, right? And that
Yeah.
we are this person when really we are this person,
Yeah.
right? So we tell ourselves different stories. And Darren Brown went into detail in Happy in the book about the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And what what can we change about the way that we look at the things around us so that we can tell ourselves helpful stories that lead us to being more happy, confident, and fulfilled individuals. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And that process happens not only in the individual level but also in the collective level, and for that reason also in societies we have myths, right? Because one time one girl disappeared and maybe he gone forever, but people start to say, oh, you saw the monster, she was taken by a monster and the monster had a beautiful back and wings or whatever, and they start to create myth. And if you think about it in a social manner, myth have the relevance of allow people to try to understand reality, because
Yes.
in the old days people create myths because they don't understand science, they don't understand anything about the world, and they try
Exactly.
to make sense, right? And the same thing happens in an individual level. I'm trying to make sense how this happens. Oh, okay, maybe he has an intuitive ability, maybe he's psychic, maybe he has psychological competences and abilities. And
Yeah.
again, it's important to know yourself, what I'm communicating with my performance, what I am really trying to communicate in terms of what is my process, how can I get your thought. Is an visual aspect, is a auditory aspect. I am feeling shivers whenever something
You have to
appears in
touch.
my
You
mind.
have to touch
A
them.
touch, right?
Yes.
It's a connection with the person, and palm readers teaches about that a lot. That touching someone is so intimate, and people want to be touched in a nice way, of course.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
if they place the trust in you, if they believe in you, they will follow you. And if you have good intentions, constructive moments of entertainment and reflections about the mysteries of life, the mysteries about the mind, people will follow you and they will have a beautiful process, right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned meaning, right? Um, and these myths. So I'm an atheist. I wasn't always an atheist. Um, and I think in some ways, mentalism. Darren Brown was asked this question: do you think that mentalism? And I agree with his answer. His answer was yes and no. Uh, in some ways, it drives atheists to it, and in some other ways, once you become it, you start to see everything else under the same lens because you understand psychology, you
Yeah.
understand um, how people can be suggested, especially if you're a hypnotist. You understand the power of suggestion, how
Yeah.
someone can feel a
Yeah.
divine connection
Yeah.
when there really is nothing. And of
Yeah.
course, if you're watching this and you do believe, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting you mentioned that because the way I see things is, again, as I said earlier, it's meaningless. Life is meaningless. You have to give it a purpose. You have to give it meaning. You have to make it worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
It's 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 an amazing happening that we are here, and
Yeah.
so we have to take advantage of it. And so, what's interesting is that people back in the days, they would make sense, and this is what you were saying. I just wanted to elaborate on it. They would make sense of the world around them through uh, the creation of different gods. the god of the sea, the god of the rain, especially in Asia, the god, to this day still, the god of the sun god, right? Mithra.
Yeah.
You have so many different gods because, and then those gods interacted. They communicate. They get upset.
Yeah.
They heal. They love. They do all these things, and through these narratives that shamans and uh, I guess you could say religious leaders of the time, of primitive times, uh, through these stories that they build, people make sense of the world around them. And they still do today, right? Through different means,
Yeah.
religion, um, uh, stories, um, through philosophy, through uh, our arts, through their art, whatever it may be, right? We're all trying to make sense of it all. And I think this is so important to know
Yeah. Yeah.
that we're all feeling the same thing. We all feel a little overwhelmed in a slight existential crisis, right?
Yeah.
And because it's so overwhelming, right? How everything's the way it is, and we don't want to be here and not do anything about it and just be a wasted life. There's a
Yeah.
really beautiful thing I heard someone saying is, what is he was asked, what is the most the place with the most innovative ideas, inventions, uh, dreams, talented people, um, and and technology? And the answer is a cemetery, because most people die with all these great ideas and all these great visions for what the world should be, and with all these innovations and talents, but they're so afraid, and we're back on fear, right?
Yeah.
But they're so afraid to share that. They're so afraid of failure, when really failure is something that we should chase. We should
Yeah.
fail often and fail forward
Yeah.
and take risks, because only then can we live the life that we want to live. And again, this is all the message that I try to deliver in my show and in my one-on-one. For some people, they might think I'm preachy. Performers might think that I'm preachy. But you know, I think it's an important thing that everybody's making sense of their life. Everyone's trying to find the meaning behind it all and find their
Yeah.
place. Because if they don't, then they feel really anxious. They feel
Yeah.
lost. So in some way, I feel like I'm doing good, both
Yeah.
uplifting them and also giving them some sort of um, motivation to find their own purpose. I think that this is all so important, the subject
Yeah.
of meaning.
Yeah. But you know, when you say that people maybe sometimes will criticize you as preach, if in these conversations we can be open, right? We can talk with our heart, with in a non-performance way. But whenever I saw you perform, I don't feel you're preachy. That everything that you are talking in this moment is indirectly shown as a metaphor during performance, but you are not preaching. You're having all these ideas and messages embedded in a very subtle ways in your acts and in the effects that you're creating, and you are letting them watching the metaphors. Because yeah, we can be very preachy if for example in the routine that you do yesterday with your video, please think someone important for your life. We need to connect with others with in our lives, because others are important, because our spirit is that. Why do we don't need to explain that much. People
Mm-hmm.
people will get our experience of mentalism as they can. If they want to
Exactly.
see it just as entertainment, fine. If they want to see a little deeper, I hope that each one of us has a deeper level in each of the
Yes.
acts. Because if we are just doing superficial bullshit, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to see more and there's no more. But
Yeah. Wow.
That classic piece of mind reading with someone special is inherently beautiful because talks a lot about the important connections in life, how we can create
Appreciating the loved
reality,
one. Yeah.
how love can connect us even if distance uh, is
Yeah.
very
Yes.
is yeah, allows us to be separate. And but we don't need to explain,
Yeah.
and that's the beautiful
They
of
can feel.
art. Yeah, it's subjective, and if people want to see it in another way, fine, it's their choice, right? If anyone wants to go to MoMA, for example, the Museum of Modern Art, people will start to see strange things. But if they are not open to value what is the artist message of this, people will not get it. And sometimes in my
Hmm.
shows, people don't get mentalism, and it's fine. That's fine because it's my mission as well as a social, cultural entity in my society to educate them, to
Yes.
go to theaters, to know that there is more variety in entertainment, that we need to really open our minds to new type of dynamics and scenarios, and that they can enjoy if they want. If they don't want, fine, because there are some people that don't like metal music. There are some people that they like ballet music, dancing, and there are some people that doesn't like theater or magic or mentalism, and it's fine. But
Hmm.
we need to create a work and act that can be relevant for people, because the most sad thing for me is that someday my work is not relevant for them. I need to be, as an artist, as a performer, to be able to create relevance in my acts. Because if people doesn't care, I prefer to receive critics, bad critics, that I am
Hmm.
playing with beliefs, that I am the devil, whatever. I prefer to receive that preferred indifference, because indifference tells me that people don't care, and that's sad.
And that tells you, once again, that you're alone. And that
Yeah.
brings you back into the existential crisis scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, what am I
Exactly.
doing? Just wasting my time, right?
Yeah.
You say something really important. And I think that if there's anything anyone can get away from this conversation, is you need two things. You need to have the knowledge and the skill to be a good performer and entertainer. But also, I urge you, you don't have to, you do whatever you want, but I urge you to have something else behind this.
Yeah.
Okay? To have, let the entertainment be a curtain, and behind that curtain have some essence,
Yeah.
have something that people can savor and that they can keep with them for the rest of their lives, that serves a good purpose for them,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
helps them out, that has a positive impact on them. And that will be dictated by your own self-discovery, by what you learned in this life, by your journey. And that means, having experiences, music, and art. I think it's so important. I think magic uh, has a tendency to build people that only know about magic, only read about
Yeah.
magic.
That's terrible.
No, no, no.
No.
Very bad.
Yeah.
If you want to grow, be exposed to music. Like Pablo said, go to a theater, see a singer, go to um, what do you call that? Um, where they say poems. I forget what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
Open
Like
mics.
yeah, open mics. Yeah.
Yeah, when people stand up there reading their poems out loud.
Yeah.
Um, you know, read about science. Read about a hobby
Anything
that you
that
have.
interesting. Yeah.
Do
Anything.
something with your hands. Paint,
Yeah. Yeah.
knit. Uh, you know, stimulate your
Yeah.
senses, because you
Explore.
find that exactly when we do that, we learn from every art things that we can apply in mentalism. And it's funny because when we do, we realize we're all the same, and we get this wisdom that
Yeah.
we are all the same.
Yeah.
You, me, a singer, a painter, a writer, we're all the same.
Yeah.
We all think in the same ways. We all have the same desires, the same goals, the same dreams, and
Yeah.
we all share in similar artistic principles that dictate how we perform or how we
Yeah.
sing or how, like, you know, metaphors, symbolism, um, how to grab people's attention instantly, right?
Yeah.
A singer will know about that, as
Yeah.
would you and I, right? So there's so much there to be explored.
Yeah.
Um, I think that if someone's still watching, then they're in it for the right reasons. And
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe some people
if you're
say,
still
okay,
watching,
I like
you
conversation.
have
I will
gotten
learn
value from
new
it.
tricks, and but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
If
but
you're still watching this, and you have gotten a lot of value from this conversation with Pablo and myself, um, I will do something. If you want, you can contact me privately through Messenger, and I will send you a really powerful routine that I typed up. I only have released one thing, and it was a principle called the
it's a beautiful
Nicaraguan
principle.
principle.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it's no longer being sold. So if you want that, we can talk about it privately.
Yeah, yeah.
But um, if you are interested in doing a Q&A style drawing duplication reading kind of thing, imagine you ask everyone to think about a question. You bring them up on stage, you give them a pad of paper and some markers. You tell them to draw an image that relates to their question. For example, if somebody were thinking of a question about love, they might draw a heart, right? So they do that when you're blindfolded. You're blindfolded, and while you're blindfolded, you can tell them about the question. You give them a reading. They haven't said a word. You give them a reading. You tell them the answer to their question, what is on their mind, and ultimately, you duplicate their drawing exactly.
Fantastic.
Uh, and I think that uh, effect, that performance piece, uh, has a lot of what I'm talking about here. You can see the my philosophy in that, and I think would be a great thing to learn from. But only,
Beautiful.
again, for those that are watching here, I'll share for free. Just contact me, and I'll send that over.
Fantastic. Well, Lance, thank you very much for your time, my friend.
No,
And
thank you.
people ask me if these live conversations will be weekly or whatever. Whatever. I will open if anyone wants to talk about mentalism, to share their stories. But this is all about the casualness of the day, right? And that's
Yeah.
beautiful because we can plan, we can schedule things, but life is a mystery, right? And maybe I will
Yes.
schedule next week a conversation, and maybe I will not be here. So for now, this is my last Facebook Live. Hopefully that we have a next one, and maybe with your, because we have a lot to talk about. I want
Yes.
to share the tarot as well, because we talk about the ego, right, as a performer. And
Yeah.
when you said
Yeah.
about the ego, I remember the magician, sorry, the mat, the fool, with
Mm-hmm.
the dog in his back, right? Because
Yes.
symbolically, the dog is the ego. And so in some schools of thought and psychology, they said to us that ego needs to be turned off. And that's not realistic, because we need to have our ego, but we need to have it, control it. We need to, like this little puppy, right? Yeah, the fool is in here, and the puppy is in there, right? The
I
puppy
think
is in there,
I
but
think
we need
this
to
should
have it, control it. Yeah,
I think that that's a beautiful message, and the Fool is a really really powerful card. The meaning
yeah,
of the Fool, it's amazing, and it's funny because I always remember every time I have a deck of cards and I see a Joker,
yeah,
because the Joker is the Fool from the
yeah,
tarot. I
yeah,
always remember that message, right, of being free, not letting your fear stop you,
yeah,
and being fearless, standing at the edge of a cliff without a worry in
yeah,
the world.
yeah,
I think this thing that we both have tarot cards, that's a lesson in itself.
yeah,
I'll leave it up to the people watching to learn what that
yeah,
means.
yeah,
But yeah, man, it was a pleasure. It was really fun.
yeah, man, yeah.
Um, And I'm drinking some coffee, so salud.
Salud, my friend, with chill and wine. So stay in touch. Thank you very much for your participation in this conversation, and stay in touch for everything in Mentalism Center and in this page as well. So bye, my friend.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.